I'm ready. I'm gravy. I'm buttered in biscuits. You know.
Is it Cheddar Bay or is it what's your go-to biscuit?
Dude, I actually don't even eat biscuits really. I had some pancakes today.
There you go. That's close. It's a bread product. Yeah, it's a bread product.
What is your
where are
top 5 bread adjacent items? Go.
bread adjacent croissant?
Oh, dude.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Top tier S tier croissant. Can't beat it.
I can always get down muffin. Yeah, muffins are good.
Yeah, muffin's good. I like just a good sourdough, like a really well made sourdough. You know.
Yeah. I can get down.
That's actually bread product generally, right? It's not.
Yeah, it's just bread, but that's okay. It's bread type, but it's still bread.
Yeah.
Something that I love to get, and I don't know if this is the same for you guys, but I love a good pancake, and I love to go to like a restaurant and get a good pancake. But it's like the thing that I always underestimate, I suppose, or overestimate, whichever one, where it's like, ooh, I got 3 pancakes and I ate 1/4 of them because now I am so full. Pancakes fill me up so much. Like it's just, it's a lot of air probably, but man, that's one thing. Donuts. I enjoy a donut.
Depends on the donut. All right, people, stop glazing your donuts. All right, I don't need all this glaze on my donut. Just make the cake inherently a little sweet.
Exactly. Completely. I would take a cake donut over a glazed donut every day of the week. Also, I don't know about you guys, but I don't love when my hands get sticky at all.
Same.
It's like I kind of almost hate it. Like I will avoid it. It's the reason. And anybody out there, I think we're podcasting now. Are you guys are recording?
I think we are. Yeah,
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Anybody out there that can call me a baby or whatever, but this is exactly why I am a boneless wing guy and not a regular wing guy. It's not because I don't like wings. I love wings, but I don't like my hands to get messy. I just hate it. You can give me an entire roll of paper towels. I still don't like it. I almost feel like I need a sink next to me washing my hands while I'm eating wings.
Mm-hmm.
As a general policy, I don't want to eat foods that I have to avoid a certain part of. Like the food in front of me, I want to just be able to consume that thing. If I'm having to like do a little like mini puzzle to solve my bite, that's too much effort. So that goes for bone-in wings. Like people will get mad at me, but that goes for lobster.
Yeah.
I just, or even like, I don't know. I just want the food. Just give me a big bowl of slop, I guess.
So you guys' nightmare scenario is the seafood boil that just plops a bunch in front of everybody and says go to town. You don't like that?
I'm like, where's the food in there? You stopped cooking halfway through. Like, come on. Even like fish that have like little, maybe an amateur uncle of yours says that they'll fillet the fish,
right? And
then you're eating your fish and you're getting 1,000 tiny little fish bones in there. I'm like, dude, you're making this a project. I'm trying to kick my feet up and enjoy a meal, and now I'm doing homework.
I'm just going to go out here and say that very much sounds like a Minnesota problem. I don't think that I've ever had just randomly fried. I mean, yes, we have fried up perch that we've caught, but I feel like the fish thing, specifically your uncle frying it up randomly, is a very Minnesota thing to have happen.
Probably.
I will say that I unfortunately disagree with you on the puzzle part and I don't love doing the puzzle part. I suppose if someone comes over and does this for me, I would be more than happy. But I do love, one of my favorite foods ever are crab legs. I love crab legs. So, but that's so much different than wings because I'm not touching the part I'm eating. I'm eating the inside. So it's a little different.
Do you guys what's your feeling on crawfish? It's basically little cockroaches that you suck the brains out of. Do you like them? I enjoy the flavor, but if you think about it too hard, it's a little creepy.
Yeah, I mean,
I've only had them a couple of times. I didn't love them personally. They weren't bad, but I mean, it just goes back to the same thing. Juice isn't worth the squeeze, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I prefer, I would just rather have shrimp any day. It's It's just similar,
fair.
right? And usually, like, I don't like when I would, and this, again, like, I probably sound like such a whiny little baby, but I much prefer the shrimp to be peeled before I ever have to touch it. Like, just give it to me. You can leave the tail, but just give me the eaty part on the front so I can just get it right out of there.
Even avoiding the tail, I'm like, nah. I know this makes me sound like a 4-year-old, but like, I'd rather just have a shrimp popper. You know,
Yeah,
basically have
why
like a
not?
shrimp chicken nugget.
You aren't wrong. That does make you sound like a 4-year-old.
I mean, it sounds good as hell though, so I can't.
they're
hate you
good,
on
yeah.
it. Like, yeah. So, I'm not as picky as you guys are, but like, if we're doing like wings at home or something, I tend to do the boneless too, just because you can fork it and then dip it, and then the thing about that though is if you rate like really spicy sauce, I don't like getting that everywhere because like the thing that you're going to end up inevitably doing, like you'll wash your hands 4 times, but you're still going to scratch your eye and burn your eye socket because, if you like the spicy sauce like I do, So having a fork, just kind of avoiding the sauce situation altogether and dipping it directly into like your blue cheese or whatever and just eating it, it's pretty ideal.
There
There you go.
The hot sauce in the eye, this is going to be a complete 180 tangent, but that reminds me of a time not all that long ago when my brother-in-law's got a German Shepherd, nice dog, but big and intimidating. And somebody had walked up to my mother-in-law's house or something. Cash is this dog's name. He didn't do anything. And the person pepper sprayed him. And yes, not good. The dog was not very good afterwards, but they were freaked out that I don't remember if it was like a electric guy, because we have electric guys come around, check gauges and stuff. I can't remember what happened, but anyway, maybe a couple days later, he's got long hair. I went to pet him and pet him. And not long after, I mean, you just don't think about it, right? I pet the dog because the dog's over. And then I rub my eye, and I'm like, "Oh, what happened?" Like it was like, and it wasn't even the full effect of getting pepper sprayed, but my eyes were screwed up that entire night, and it was like a minuscule amount because my brother-in-law had already given him a bath and everything, but so it was just the little particles of pepper spray left over. It was not. I'm just gonna say it. There's like what I think. Police have to go through that training of getting like pepper sprayed. Like, oh my God, no, dude. I can see why they are like puking and yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. So, yep.
Pass. Well, this is IndieQuest, folks. It's your celebration of dudes in their 30s that have complaints about food and, contact high pepper spray in the eye, as well as the Indian obscure.
Absolutely.
So
we talk about indie games, maybe
we
a
do.
little bit. So after we talk about food and what everyone's drinking, I just have water today. That's it for me. No energy drinks or anything crazy. But
same.
I got a seltzer water, a Topo Chico lime with mint extract. The only downside is that I forgot to throw it in the mini fridge, and so it's room temperature, and it's still good. But a room temperature seltzer water I like less because I'm more inclined to like chug it like it's actual water, which is not the way to enjoy seltzer water. You need to get sips and
crisp.
Appreciate the little bubbles popping on your tongue, but all the same, it's quite tasty.
Yeah, you sound like you're like me. I'll just grab one out of the cabinet if I'm like in a hurry. I don't care if it's ice cold. I prefer it ice cold, but if it's like, it's a little room temp, it's not going to kill me. I just need something right now. I'll grab one right out of the cabinet. I don't care,
Exactly.
I have my own question about bubbly water. Do you utilize bubbly water to hydrate? Or is it just like a fun beverage to have? Because I think of carbonation as adjacent to soda, I suppose, and you can't drink pop and hydrate yourself, obviously, right? Like most carbonated beverages are not for hydration.
I think you can. I would say that I do, but not as like a conscious
primary
water
source.
replacement.
Yeah.
I'm just bad at drinking the necessary amount of water in a day. I get most of my water intake from seltzer water or, watered down iced coffees, things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm a grown ass man. I will have a glass of water from the fridge, but
with your shrimp poppers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say that as a general like fact about me, I'm a sipper. I'm sure you guys have noticed this. I always like to have a beverage. People that watch the stream will notice this too. I always want to have a beverage, and I'm always sipping on it. I'm like that at work too. I just need something next to me to sip on. And that thing is almost never water. I should make it water, but it's always something kind of fun and tasty, coffee, flavored seltzer water, whatever. And then when I need actual water, I like just fill up a big tumbler and like stand in front of the fridge and just chug the whole thing. Yep. And then I pour myself another cup of coffee and go back downstairs. So
Yep.
that's how I handle it.
Yeah, I think my approach is similar. Where it's like I'll get halfway through the day and be like, man, I haven't drank any water. And you just crush a glass of water really quick to make sure you don't die, and then move on with your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your body's like, thank God, but could you space it out a little more?
Yeah,
I'd
right.
appreciate that.
Well, Summer Game Fest happened this last couple of weeks. Just a hard pivot there. Any highlights for you guys? I know we didn't really gather like a top 5 or anything, but anything stand out?
Yeah. The one that is probably most in my wheelhouse that I'm intrigued by, I think intrigued is the right word, is Super Meat Boy 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a little cautious because I love the original Super Meat Boy, but Forever didn't quite hit for me. Like, Forever was still a fine game. I enjoyed Super Meat Boy Forever, but like, it had big, shoulders to climb on top of, and it did not succeed in that regard in my mind. It came out as a worse game. And a large part of that is because the half of the creative team, Edmund McMillan, who created Super Meat Boy, is not part of Team Meat anymore, so you're only getting, half of the original developers there. But all the same, Super Meat Boy 3D it's a cool announcement. It's a cool idea, and I actually think that 3D splatformers are like a little underserved. We were all enjoying Celeste 64 when they dropped that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, our good buddy Guido like did his custom set of levels, B-sides that were, I think, a little harder than the original game. And yeah, that was a fun time. So something like that for Super Meat Boy, I think could be cool. I'm approaching it, with my guard is up, but I'm still entering the front door is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, they posted like a 15-minute like gameplay clip of that on IGN, and I was like, you know what? I'm seeing it, but I'm also kind of like, like it looks good, but does it play as good as it quite looks? I don't think we're gonna really know until we get our fingers on the sticks there, on that one.
Yeah. But I'll definitely check it out when it comes out. So, yeah, that was one of those where like I saw the announcement. I think actually, Josh, I saw it when you tagged me because I was out of town for all the Summer Game Fest. I actually missed a lot of these showcases, but Josh tagged me on Discord and I saw the trailer, and my immediate reaction was like I popped off. I was like, yes, and then after I like sat down and thought about it for a second, I'm like, Steve, you've been hurt before. you need to approach this with emotional and intellectual honesty about the circumstances through which it's made, and see if it's a good game. Which is that is what I will do.
Yeah, and then speaking of pinging you to jump to the next game here, Possessors, they had a trailer for that, and that's a game by Heart Machine, who made Hyper Light Drifter and Hyper Light Breaker, and it's a 2D Metroidvania with looks like a really interesting story. It looks like it's going to be one of those 8-hour, just really like concise, really pretty, and really well done games. So I feel like them doing Hyper Light Breaker is cool and all, but it's almost their quote unquote live service thing where they're constantly updating it type of feeling. This one's more like, okay, here's our idea, let's execute that idea. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, all right, I'm tagging Steve, especially because that's just right up your alley. So,
and in a lot of ways, that feels like more of a spiritual successor to Hyper Light Drifter than Hyper Light Breaker was. So, which admittedly I have not put any time into Hyper Light Breaker, so I shouldn't comment on its quality really, but yeah, seeing them doing a focused single player thing did get me excited because obviously that's where they excel.
Heck yeah. A game that is a sequel to another game that I actually have not played, but has forever been at like the top of the list. I just never get around to it. And recently I got very close to playing it. But that game is Moonlighter, and this game is Moonlighter 2, The Endless Vault. The reason I want to play Moonlighter is because the composer mostly, David Fenn, composes Moonlighter, and he also composed my favorite game of all time, Death's Door, one of my favorite soundtracks of all time, as well as Titan Souls, which is also a fantastic soundtrack. So
great soundtrack.
I've listened to a decent amount of the Moonlighter soundtrack, but it's one of those things where it's like, I know I'm going to play this game. I own it physically, and now like I've got multiple avenues to play that game. Need to just do it, and I want to do it prior to this one coming out, so I have that experience behind it. But this one actually looks so much different. It's the original Moonlighter is very much a top-down pixel Zelda-like, where it's almost like a Zelda-like crossed with like the one part of Dragon Quest IV where you play as Torneko Taloon, because you own your own item shop, basically. So you actually go out to the dungeons yourself and procure your supply, and then you sell it, and which is a very cool, unique thing. But I've been wanting to get to that game so I can then understand, have that touch point for this sequel. Looks super cool.
Yeah, that's one that Scotch and Hobbies will like randomly ping me like, "Hey, you need to play Moonlighter. Have you played Moonlighter?" And I'm like, "No, I should." You know, I know.
The big barricade for me has been that it's like a 20-hour game. If it was 10, I would have played it 3 times over by now. It's just that extra doubling up that 10 hours. I know I just played Promise Mascot Agency, which is also a 20-hour game, but you know, playing an older game that's 20 hours, you know, you're gonna have to have that investment. And then you don't have the goatee thing to have the touch point on, so it's some hoops that are stupid. Anybody at home's like, yeah, I mean, I play whatever I want. We kind of tie ourselves to like an imaginary guideline, but
yes,
still, now I have more so than ever need to play that game specifically because of the sequel. So that should drive me to do so. Hopefully this year.
Good news is that I don't think either of us are going to bring it before you do. Josh, I could see you really liking that game. It seems like kind of your thing.
Yeah,
but
I mean, if Seth's interested in playing it, then you know it's kind of one. I'll be like, okay, we'll wait and see on that one. You know, that we take our turns here, and then like you were saying about the 20-hour thing, it's like. Just to tease my game. My game's about 20 hours that I brought today. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Another one that I'm excited about, this is not a new game at all, but they did announce that the Sword of the Sea release date is coming in August. I forget the exact date. It's like August 18th or something like that. Don't quote me on the day, but it is coming in August. And they also announced that, which is nice for me, that it's going to be free for like the PlayStation Plus, like higher tier subscribers. It's going to be like a day one launch in the same way that like Animal Well was and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So... yeah, that game looks great. You know, Journey meets Tony Hawk. So basically combining my teens and my 20s into a single game. I can't wait for that one. And I'm glad to hear that it is confirmed coming out this year, and you know, we'll be able to talk about it. Hopefully, if the game is good, come end of the year time.
Heck yeah.
One I want to shout out is from Thunder Lotus. They made Spiritfarer. So that's a really popular indie game. They're not making a sequel. They're making a game called At Fate's End. It's an action-adventure game. It says it's like okay, I'll read a little description here. At Fate's End weaves tight, visceral action with rich narrative depth, exploring the complicated bonds between brothers and sisters in a world where swords clash and family wounds run deep. That sounds pretty cool. It has a nice art style. It has that similar art style of Spiritfarer, you know, very hand-drawn and like kind of painterly looking, but apply that to like an action-adventure 2D hack-and-slash style game, which I'm pretty interested in. It looks pretty cool. This one was announced, I think, at the Xbox Director Showcase.
That looks awesome. Yeah. And it just reminds me that I still need to get around to Spiritfarer. Oh, yeah. That's one that is definitely like a good candidate for why isn't this on the quest log. Very well loved and well regarded game.
I think that's another one that's like, it's kind of like 20-something hours. Yeah. So, you know, kind of thinking about it a little bit before you press play initially, right?
There's so many of those. Yeah, that game has been on the top of the list for me a lot of times where it's like, oh, do I have enough time? You know, we work in a 2-week window. So if you're going to play a 20-hour game, you almost need to plan out prior to the episode before you're planning on taking it to. Like, it's that weird thing. You almost need a month to make sure you're going to get it done. Because we obviously play other games and have lives, right? So
and you don't want to rush through it either. You don't want to be like, I have 5 hours left of this thing. Oh, great. The podcast is tomorrow. Let's rush through it. And then that might color your opinion on it, right?
It has more than once, unfortunately. Yep. And we all, I think, try to remove that to be as objective as possible, I think. But there's always opinions that bleed through, of course. That's why we're individuals. Another one for me is Blighted, which we were chatting about prior to this a little bit. But I am a personal fan of Drinkbox. And, I mean, I haven't played all of their games. I've really only played Guacamelee, but I love Guacamelee. And this game almost looks like the color, the art style is so good. It's a top-down action game. They call it a Metroidvania, so I suppose it's got those things. But it gives me Hades vibes, which I love. I think we all love. So I'm very interested to check this one out. Drinkbox, you know, some of their games are a little bit polarizing, I suppose, who likes them and who doesn't, but they've really not come out with a bad game. So I highly doubt that this will be a bad game. It'll probably be a very, very good game.
Yeah, they're still doing their very hyper, like the colors pop off the screen like they always do.
Yes.
With this, it's just a very visually appealing game. Like, go look up some screenshots or some of the gameplay. You're gonna be like, oh my god, that looks beautiful. I feel like that sells people more than anything. It's just how nice their games look, and then usually the content is pretty damn good too. So.
Yeah. Speaking from just like a point of view of being a window shopper for games, like any devs that are somehow listening to our podcast, something that I've been doing recently is like looking at games on the PlayStation Store and Steam. And if I watch gameplay and it's like 10 seconds long and I feel like it's generic and I've seen this before, I will almost always click away. Like, I need some originality for me to be in there. So this kind of game, or a lot of the games that we're talking about that are pretty high budget, usually have that originality, which I can appreciate.
Darn right. It reminds me a bit, not of in terms of gameplay, but something about the vibe of it. Blighted reminds me a bit of Severed, which is my favorite Drinkbox game. So that has me pumped.
Yep.
One more that I'm excited for, probably the last one I think I have on my list to chat about, is a game that the first game is on the quest log and we were all fans of. They announced a sequel, I think, at the Xbox showcase, is Planet of Lana 2.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not a game I was anticipating getting a sequel. I mean, the story didn't really seem to be setting us up too much. So, based on what I saw in the trailers, it looks like simultaneously more Planet of Lana and also doing some interesting, cool new things. And, I mean, those are just like spectacle showcases, right? Like, the thing, when I think of a Planet of Lana, I just think of that soundtrack and then taking in all those environments. And so when I saw another trailer, even though it wasn't something I was craving, I was like, I could do another lap of this. Like, this sounds like a good time to me.
It's so, I mean, unless they drastically change anything with the second game, it's like very low obligation to play through Planet of Lana, or a game like Planet of, like, we've already been talking about 20-hour experiences, right? Like, that takes some time and some thought process that you're going to put aside to actually play through a game like that. Planet of Lana is a couple hours long, wraps up cleanly, and is also one of the best looking and most gorgeous sounding games I've ever played. So I will always be down to do it again.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. All right. I have two that I'm just going to throw out here real quick. First off, we got Mixtape, which is from the Artful Escape people. I don't know. I played that. It was pretty good. I thought it was a good experience. Like, I wasn't like blown away, but it was gorgeous and it had a great soundtrack. And I feel like they're kind of doing that and adding a little bit more gameplay elements to it. It's basically a week in the life of like some hooligans, from the 90s, early 2000s, and there's a bunch of music playing, and it looks kind of like they do a lot of animation on twos, similar to like Spider-Verse or something like that. It has a very interesting look to it. It just looks like a nice vibe game. You get in, play for 4 or 5 hours, and just vibe with some kids, getting into some mischief. Looks like a good time. And then the other one I wanted to bring up, which I want to get some people to play this with me, is Big Walk. It's the guys that made Untitled Goose Game. They're doing a big multiplayer game. And the whole idea is you and like 4 people have proximity chat, and you play these little derpy looking guys and solve puzzles and stuff in the world. And apparently there's like a whole storyline that you uncover throughout this world. It just looks really unique and fun. So those are my highlights.
I could do the Untitled Goose Game multiplayer. That sounds like a good time. I can't play Mixtape with you. My mom won't let me play a game where I play as hooligans, but I would be happy to play the other one.
Yeah,
so
maybe we should we should all squad up and play that or something. It just basically great. The quote the dev says it's about the joy of muddling through things together, which is kind of their whole pitch of the game. It just looks like a really interesting and unique type of game. So that might be a fun one to play.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. One of these weekends or weeks, Seth and I will need a break from getting cooked in Night Rain, so we can switch it up and play some multiplayer goof game.
Absolutely.
Just to sum up the whole like Summer Game Fest thing, I feel like every year the whole experience of watching these gets a little bit more negative for some reason. But to me, I always come out with the same feeling. It's like, yes, I enjoyed watching it. Yes, there were parts where that kind of drug on a little bit, but I usually come out with like 10 games. I'm like, all right, I'm excited to play that, which is kind of the goal, right? So always a good time. That was happening, and also the Switch 2 was coming out. I know that Steven and I both picked up our Switch 2s, so been really enjoying mine a lot. Went to the Best Buy opening and kind of stood in line. And honestly, it was probably the smoothest console launch I've ever experienced. It was like 40 minutes in line. I had mine. I was ready to go. We had some shipment delays on my partners, and I was like, screw it. Let's go check out the store in town and see if they have one. They had one, so I just refunded the other one when it came in. It was like a week late. So they still got to experience Switch 2 on launch, and they played like 20 hours on that console I bought. So it was worth like, having like $500 in limbo for a few days, so that we both can experience it. So good times. Yeah.
Totally. I entered like my official, I realized I was old moment with the Switch 2, where I went to the midnight launch. It was actually like a 11 p.m. launch. And I pulled up to the Best Buy, and the parking lot was full of cars, and there was 2 lines, both of them wrapped around the side of the Best Buy with people. I assume one was the pre-order line, and one was probably like the I'm buying it here line. And I was like doing calculus in my head of how long this would take. And I was like, man, even if I get this thing by like 12:30, I'm going to get home. I'm not going to have any time to play it. Like, I got to go to bed. My kid's going to be up at 7 in the morning. So I just didn't even get out of the car. I just turned around, went back home, went to sleep, and then at 10 a.m. the next morning, I rolled in and grabbed my Switch 2, no problem.
Heck
but
yeah.
It's a good time. It's a good system. I don't know. I don't think any of us brought it this time. I'll be surprised if we did, but the big indie release on that at launch was Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 that came out, which I am really excited to play, but I'm personally, I think I'm gonna wait until they all release and play them all at once type of guy. So I didn't put any time into that. It's all been all Mario Kart for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I played a lot of Mario Kart, and then of course I played Tears of the Kingdom, and I tried out some other Switch 1 games that got the boosts and stuff like that. Been enjoying that. But I was looking at Deltarune, and I was like, and then I was reading some more into it. Even though they do label it as an official release or something like that, like people are saying that the game is 7 days in that world, and then each chapter is another day. So I'm like, basically, you're only gonna get to Thursday. Like, is it worth just playing till Thursday, or should I wait till Sunday comes out? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm still working for the weekend at that point. I mean, come on.
Exactly. So I was like, I'm not sure about that.
Hope everyone's enjoying their Switch 2 out there. Hopefully they're getting some good game time in.
Yeah, it's been really cool. So that's going to lead right into my indie picks, because my game I played it on the Switch 2. So what is our indie picks? What's the show? The quest log is an ever-growing list of curated indie games that we think everyone should play. What's a main quest? That is a game that's a banger. It's an incredible experience, or it excels in its genre beyond a reasonable doubt, which I still feel sounds weird, so maybe I'll reword that again. I don't know. But anyway, side quest is still a recommendation. It has a caveat or two, or it might be a little bit niche, or it might be like an 8 out of 10 instead of like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece.
And before you get into your game, I will say, because I actually had 2 different people ask me between last episode and this episode, just so folks know, if you ever want to see the quest log, IndieQuestPod.com is the website for it. Couple of folks were asking where they can see the list of games we've talked about, and yeah, if you go to indiequestpod.com, they're all there. You can see what episode we talked about it on if you want to go back and listen to that episode. You can see who brought it if you feel like your tastes align with one of the 3 of us, or if you think one of the 3 of us is a jackass and you don't want to listen to us. And it, for all of the games, we link out to either the game's website or at least the Steam page, just to make it easy for you to go check out, like, more materials from the developer too. So indiequestpod.com.
And if you want to know what our tastes are, go listen to episode 100. It's a great reference episode. It's like
that's true.
Just go do that.
Yeah, it's like that. That's a great episode to be, just to see how the vibe of the podcast is. I just go in and steal Steve's favorite game. You guys gotta hear it. So.
That's how you know that Josh is the antagonist of this show. Famously rude Josh.
Famously negative all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Side
So
quest for
pessimistic.
days.
It's like, cheer up, buddy. What'd you bring, dude? What'd you bring?
Yeah, I'll go first. I brought a game called, what year did this come out? Let's see. It came out 2023, so it's a couple years old. Not a brand new, spanking new Switch 2 game, but the idea behind this was like, anytime I get a new console or like something, I'm like, I'm gonna play indies on this. Like when I got the PC, it's like a big beefy PC. I'm sitting there playing like, I don't know, Skin Deep, which just came out, or stuff like that. Just like, I'm gonna play something weird and kind of quirky. So I saw this on the store, and it's one I've been kind of wanting to play for a while. It's a JRPG, which, whenever I bring one of those, it's kind of rare, but I like to step out of my comfort zone. Yeah. This game is called In Stars and Time. Have you guys heard of this?
I have heard of it. It seems very cool. I won't say anything that I've heard about it, because I'm sure you'll mention some of these talking points in your overview. But I've heard a lot of really good things about it, and I also saw that it was on your Switch 2 playing list when I just added you as a friend on Switch, so I knew this was what you brought.
Kind of spoiled it, but that's okay.
I feel like this is one of those situations. This situation for me reminds me of when I brought One Shot, this ultra popular game that neither of you had heard of at that time. Somehow this one evaded me. I have not heard of this game, and it has 5,600 overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam.
You love it, man. There's further evidence there's too many good games out there.
There are, truly. So I'm excited to hear about it, because I think it looks awesome.
It's awesome. It's a cool game. All right, so I'll read the Steam description. I feel like it lays it out really well. It says, live with the ever-present burden of being trapped in a time loop only you can know about in this turn-based RPG. Create a better future for you and your friends. Find hope where there is none left. Pray to the stars and free yourself from time. So, if you guys are looking at some trailers for the game, or some screenshots or something, you're going to see one thing. The game is all in black and white. It's an RPG Maker game too, so you kind of know what the overall look of it's going to be. It's RPG Maker like coded, but it has a very unique presentation. It has a black and white look, and then the character portraits are very cute and quirky and have a lot of expression as you're talking to them in the dialogue.
It gives me Undertale mixed with, I don't know why this is evading me right now, but I know you guys will know what I'm talking about. But the game that is like based on a comic book, and also there was a movie with
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim. Some of the character designs reminds me of Scott Pilgrim, but then like obviously the game itself is an RPG and reminds me of that Undertale looking. Honestly, looking at this like top-down look, I would not have necessarily guessed that it was definitely RPG Maker. It makes sense that it is, but it's not like your run-of-the-mill RPG Maker game. Like they did a lot with it to make it look like this.
Yeah.
I also want to add, I know that this won't come through for the folks just listening to the show, but Seth said that he's never heard of this game until now. And every now and again this happens. It's happened to all of us before, where someone hasn't heard of a game that looks cool as hell. So I'm watching his face here in Discord. It's just lighting up. The dude is just beaming as he looks through these screenshots. He's like, he's smiling ear to ear. He's loving it. So
it looks sick, dude. Like I cannot believe I have not seen this game before.
This is a very, very Seth. Both of you guys would really like this game, but this is another one of those ones where it's a one-person dev. It's their name is Adrian Bazir. They go by Insert Disc 5, and that's their like video game like creator handle. They have another game in development as well, but one of the main reasons I've wanted to pick this game, and I've had this on my wish list for a while, but it's Pride Month, and I was like, you know what, I want to bring something that has some pro LGBTQ like messages and themes in it, and this game has a lot of that in there. So it's a really interesting story, and it's very much a game that everybody in the story feels accepted. And one of the main concepts of the game is change. They worship a god called the Change God, and everybody is like encouraged to change, and like change who you are to better fit who you feel that you are, and things like that. So it has that message all throughout the game, which is really nice and beautiful. Adds to the overall themes of the game. To go back to the presentation, besides having the really nice, interesting black and white, one thing I was kind of hoping for this game, it might be spoilers, is that there would be some color in the game at all, but there's not. It's always black and white. That's how it looks throughout the entire game. Wow, it just started playing the audio for me, and I just got blared the music. Speaking of the music, the music is incredible. It's every track is just an earworm. It's going to get stuck in your head. Really good chip tunes in there. It really feels like a classic RPG in a lot of respects. Like if you're in the town, it's a very good town theme, like to the point where my partner walked in the room and was like, are you playing like a cozy game? Like it has that like nice like Pokemon. I'm in like just going around collecting Pokemon vibes. Like, and then if you're in battle, it has that really like upbeat, up tempo, like some, let's just say electric guitars come out at times, and it just feels very epic. It really suits it for this game. So the main premise of the game is you're at the end of a long RPG, like a long JRPG. You're all like level 45 when you start. So the last thing you got to do is the night before you go into this big house and fight the king who has been freezing people in time, right? So you go into the house and you get in there and something happens and you die, like right away. And you're like, okay. And of course, the time loop starts. And then the whole premise of the game is trying to make your way more and more into this house and more to the highest parts of the floors by solving puzzles that are related to this time loop.
I hear time loop, and I automatically think of all the games that have time loops. So is there a restriction, a timing restriction in this game where you can only do so much during your time of each like mini run or whatever you want to call it?
So each run doesn't really have an endpoint. Every endpoint is a death. There are time crystal like tears that are floating. So there's the whole theme of it, like the big king bad boss. He cries tears and makes these little monsters called sadness that you have to fight. So there would be like tears floating around that you can touch and kill yourself to loop back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. But there's also an interesting mechanic to where you don't always have to go back to the beginning. So say I unlock floor 1, 2, and 3. I can go to floor 3, or I can go to the king boss fight at any point. I just need to have these memories of fighting or something like that. They're like every time you fight somebody, you get like one of them, and then there's like an item you can equip to get 3, so you can have like a bunch of them banked up. So it's like, okay, you need 10 of these icons to get to floor 3, and you can also unlock all the doors if you spend a little bit more of that currency. Okay. So it's kind of like you're not stuck doing the entire 1, 2, 3 floors. There's 3 floors and then the boss. That's not a huge spoiler or anything. Right. You're not stuck doing that loop every single time. I will say you will be doing a lot of repetition, but I feel like I'll get into that right now because that's something that I figured you guys might ask me is, can it get annoying because you're doing some of the same things over and over again? I will say a little bit that there is some of that friction in the game where you're like, okay, well, I know I got to get to floor 2. I got to dodge some battles to get to this specific room, to get to the library or something like that. Because there is this new piece of information I found out about the loop, or I know there's a book in there that I need to read in that library specifically. So it's like, okay, I teleport up to level 2. I kind of just make my way through as fast as I can, trying to dodge the enemies. A good thing is if you get into any encounters, you can always escape. There's no like, okay, now I got to do the fight every single time.
Good.
You can just push B and say, okay, let's run away and just keep going. So
Nice.
that's nice. When you save on each of the save points in the floors, it'll save your progress for all your characters, like their XP and everything. And then your main character always levels up. He just keeps leveling up. No matter how many times you do the loop, you can be like level 100 by the time you get there if you want to, and grind that out. That's up to you. So basically, you can start becoming a tank, you know?
Kind of tied to that, what you're saying of the experience and the time loop.
Yeah.
Is this the type of game where if you know all the information and you started a new file, could you cook your way through it, or would you still need to spend time doing the RPG side of it? You know, is like an Outer Wilds where with all the knowledge in your head, your first playthrough could in theory be a 20-minute run, or no?
I don't think that's going to be completely doable because it has 5 acts to it, and there's like a whole story that you have to go through to get to certain parts of that information. But if you knew all the dialogue, you could probably thumb through it really quick. But I still feel like you would. I don't know how fast this speed run is for this. I wonder. I'm curious about that now. Maybe I should look it up. But I don't think you can really do it any faster than a few hours. Like, I don't think a speed run would take like 30 minutes because you know everything. That's a good question though. Because like, okay, so I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible. This might sound like a spoiler, okay, but you've beat the boss and you loop again and you're like, what's going on? Like, I beat the big bad. That's chapter 2. You start chapter 2 and there's new information and there's a bunch of like story threads that start appearing, like, oh, maybe you should talk to her, or maybe you should talk to them, or maybe you should go look up this, you know. And there's like a character helping you along the way called Loop, and they're kind of like a star head shape, like they have a star for a head. It's kind of goofy looking, but you can go to them for resources and be like, hey, they can literally just ask them like, I don't know what to do right now. What's the next step? Well, you know this information. Maybe you should go talk to this person. They might have something about that information, you know. So it does lead you where you need to go next. There are some puzzly things and things you might want to remember. I wish I would have done this, but maybe if you do play this game and this sounds interesting to you, bring a notebook and then kind of like write what each floor contains within it. You know, it's like, okay, this floor has this, this, and this, just so you know. And you're, to me, because like, I forget, like, okay, what floor was that on again? All right, let's do a quick Google, you know, stuff like that. So having that information at the ready would be helpful for that. But when it comes down to it, though, the main premise, the main loop is you're just slowly uncovering what this whole world is about. The magic in the world is craft magic, and it literally is rock, paper, scissors. That's all the combat. So it's very simple. You know, you can, like, every game is rock, paper, scissors in this style for the most part, you know, but it's literally rock, paper, scissors. Like, you know, it's pretty easy to figure out. One of the characters has an examine command. You can examine if it's not obvious that what their craft is. Okay, they're paper now. Okay, I'm gonna use scissors on this character. You know, pretty simple. I don't think the RPG mechanics are very deep. Like, you can pretty much power through most of the boss battles and fights in this, and I don't really think that's the point of it. But it is kind of cool when you get like more powerful as the main character, and the main character is kind of tanking everything. Like, the first turn, you're just killing things in one hit, which is pretty fun, you know? Get that power of fantasy going. The thing I like about this game the most, the mechanics are really good. Like, I enjoy the whole RPG elements. I like the music. I enjoy doing the combat and the fighting and getting up to that big boss battle and everything. But what you're here for is the story and the characters. There's your whole crew. You start to just find out more and more about them. The main character has one eye, has a eye patch. Why does he have an eye patch? You find that out. You have some love interest. There's a character that's your love interest, and they don't want to quite say they love you, but they do. You know, that type of thing. You can see it from the beginning. They're like, okay, there's something going on here, you know. And I thought the writing in this was very well done. There's a point in the game where the character had been through the loop so many times. He's just like, oh my god, you can just really relate to him because you're playing the game and you're playing, like, when you're hitting like 14, 15 hours, you've done this loop a few times, you're very familiar with everything. You do feel the tedium a little bit and it kind of drags down a little bit, but the character is saying what you're thinking sometimes. He's like, this again, oh my god, yeah, crap. But by the time you wrap up everything, you see all the story threads untangle and then kind of like resolve and everything, I really think they hit it home, and it really was a very powerful message that they're trying to portray. I won't say this is like the deepest game ever. Like, a lot of the storylines are kind of surface level. There are kind of, I would say, not trying to be disparaging, but I will say some of the writing is very YA, like young adult, kind of leaning that way a little bit. I would say this is more like, it's not like you're not the most complicated, fancy writing ever, but it's like, it's like anybody can enjoy this, even younger kids, because I feel like it has messages of friends and family and togetherness. And it's just one of those stories that you finish it, you're like, I wasn't like in tears, but I was like, I feel really good. That was a really nice game. It just made me feel nice, So, any questions so far about this game?
No, I mean, I think it looks, just based on the looks of it, right? I feel like a lot of games have attempted to do the black-white thing, and, it's been just kind of it's almost like a trope, especially in indies at this point. But man, when they nail it, they really nail it. And I like too that, you talk about like the LGBTQ stuff within this game, and yet they still went like black and white, which is not something you really think about for a game like that, which I think is cool. It's unique in that way. So
you look at the artwork and like the fact that it's a 20-hour runtime and all that, and like some of these like little cutscenes and like the animation, like you could tell that there's like almost like a little like Cartoon Network energy to some of like the character designs and animation. It's like, I do not know how this one individual did all this. Like,
right.
This is like truly something to be proud of. Like, damn.
Yeah. And it has, honestly, I feel like, to me, if I was going to like boil this game down to two things that are related to it, I would be like, if you took Undertale and then the writer for Steven Universe came in and was like, hey, let's do a little time loop game with like an Undertale vibe. And I feel like it kind of has those, like the Cartoon Network just made me think of that so much, because Steven Universe is like a very queer centric show, and I feel like that has some of that energy too. Like the main character is non-binary in this. There is the whole thing about change magic is like, hey, you might feel like you're more like a lady. You can actually use craft magic to, make yourself appear and become a lady, basically have a sex change with this magic, which is pretty cool. And like, I just like the whole theme of love who you love, that's very, very prevalent in this. And then like, be who you want to be, even if that isn't what everybody expects you to be, but that's okay, because change is, the thing that they worship and the thing that they strive for in the whole universe, which I think is just really well done. You as the main character play somebody from a different land, but you don't know your background, and that kind of like fish out of water, I guess, or like, I'm not used to this type of like religion or what these people are believing, but you kind of learn to love that side of things too with the characters, which is pretty fascinating as well. I think for one person, like you were saying, it's really hard to do this game and not make it feel like a slog. Like, there's so many times in this game where I'm like, okay, I can see what I have to do next, and do I want to do that? Because some people reviewing this, and this is definitely not the vast majority, but I have seen some people go, yeah, it's very tedious because you have to do the same thing over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the storyline. They want you to relate to the character, so it kind of works, All in all, like, everything they try to set out to do, I feel like they do nail it. And even if you have those like 2 to 3 hours in the middle there, you're like, oh, I have to do this again, But that's the point, I guess I should say. That's by design.
I see that I've got a screenshot that, as you were talking, I'm scrolling through the screenshots on Steam. And the last one says, in parentheses, you don't know how long you can keep doing this. and then you can either
Yeah.
select start again or quit, right? So obviously
Yeah.
that's the point. Like that's what they were trying to drive home. So I kind of applaud them for that. Even though they knew they were making some tedious parts, like they still drove it home, and obviously it was received well by the majority of people.
Yeah. And I will say, like, there are like the ideal loops that you go through. You're like, okay, I'm talking to my party members, and there's like these new story cutscenes that open up, and you like see a new side of all these characters, and you go through this whole thing, and then of course things are gonna loop again, and you're kind of like, oh no, that was so perfect, like that was so perfect. Why do I have to loop again? But that's exactly what the main character's thinking. You really do put yourself in the main character Sifrin's shoes when it comes to that. So yeah, I had the same journey he did, which is kind of special, I think, and they really did pull that off for me.
It reminds me a little bit of like Groundhog Day, the movie, right?
Yeah.
Where Bill Murray tries to get it so perfect and like get his days down to be like to a science, even though he knows he's just going to repeat the same day over again the next day, right? So interesting in that way.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun with the RPG thing. It's like they start to feel like it, like you can. So there's a fast forward button in the game that you can hold. I think it's like the square button on a PlayStation controller. You hold that down, and it does like a, and you just like go super fast to the dialogue. But what happens sometimes, you will miss new things in the dialogue, and occasionally they'll be like, "Sifrin, are you listening to what I'm saying?" and things like that, and you'll actually just rewind past, like fast forward past that and stuff like that, because you're literally zoning out, just nodding as they're saying stuff to you. So there are little things snuck in there that if you just skip everything, which you're going to start doing, you're looping, let's say like over 50 times. I won't say my final loop count because I don't know how spoilers savvy people are, but it's over 50 times, I'll say, to beat the game. You're going to see the same dialogue over and over again. You're not going to watch somebody talk for 10 minutes every single time. You could just hit the button to get done in 10 seconds. You're going to do it. But and occasionally, the character will be kind of frustrated, or he'll have like a new dialogue option. He'll just be like, "Oh yeah, so how are you today?" It's just like a new thing, and it's just kind of out of nowhere on a random loop. So they play with that quite a bit, and I feel like this is just one that really snuck up on me. I was just going to try it and see if it felt like a vibe. And obviously I played the whole thing in like a week, and it's like an almost 20-hour game. Like I think I put 19 hours into it or something, and had a really great time with it. Any final questions before I put it on the quest log?
I don't think so.
No.
I'm excited to hear it.
I recently picked up the PS5 copy of the game, so I'm kind of pumped to check it out now. I honestly don't know where you're going to put it. I feel like you could convince me in either direction here based on what you've said. So let's hear it.
So to me, this one was kind of tough to put on a main or a side quest. I mean, obviously it's critically loved. It's reviewed very well. It has a huge fan base. I didn't even realize how huge the fan base was until like I beat the game. I started looking up like videos of it. There's like a bunch of animatics and like fan meme videos and a whole bunch of stuff. So this is just a really popular game that kind of took off because I get it. The story is very powerful and has a lot of emotional resonance. I think go in knowing that this game will have tedious parts. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's going to be parts where you're going to be like, oh my God, do I want to do this for 2 more hours? Please push through it, because I think it's worth your time, and I think the story really hits home, and you're going to fall in love with the characters just like everybody else has, and that's why it has such a big fan base, because the characters feel like real characters that you would meet. They actually feel like really well realized. They have their own motivations, their own way of speaking, their own everything, and you just want to spend time with them, which is pretty much what you want to do in an RPG anyway, right? So when it comes down to it, even though I did have moments where I was frustrated with the game because of the looping mechanics, this is going to be a main quest game. Just go in knowing that, though. Like, this is like one where I'll put a caveat on a main quest that there's going to be times where you're a little annoyed, but it's by design. So definitely a very interesting, unique, and well done game that I feel like anybody will get something out of. So yeah, in Stars and Time, a main quest game.
I feel like different people have different tolerances for that type of thing, like tedium in that way. So I could see it being a main quest for a lot of people and a side quest for others. It's just going to be like a how much time you feel like you have and your patience. But
Yeah.
very cool. All right. Seth, you cool if I go next? I feel like mine is a good counterpoint to Josh's here. I did a terrible job lining this up for all of the respective holidays. I did not pick a queer game, so I'm letting Pride Month down. As we're recording it today, it's Father's Day. I did not pick a sad dad game, so I let Father's Day down. But all the same, I think I have one. I'm hoping, if he hasn't heard of it, that the through line from Josh's game to my game is that Seth will think it looks cool as hell.
Okay, that works.
We're going kind of in the opposite direction. You had a game that has a huge rabid fan base. People really love this game, thousands and thousands of positive reviews. I'm bringing a game with less than 100 reviews on Steam, and one that I think more people should be checking out. Like, this is one of those things where I want to kind of give this game a little bit of a boost and give it some airtime and get people to take notice of it. And that is a game, I'm curious if either of the two of you have heard of it. It came out in 2025. It's called Asura the Striker. Have either of you ever heard of this?
Asura.
Oh, wow.
Asura the Striker.
It has the...
I haven't heard of it, obviously. I've seen the name, maybe.
Like, whenever I see... I'm just going to say... Whenever I see, like, I don't know, I think, is this maybe Chinese before?
Japanese developers.
Okay, so it's kanji then, or like something. Whenever I see that, right, I'm always like, this is going to be such an interesting game, but I always worry, for whatever reason, I always worry how the localization is going to be on games like this, because I've played games that have had this, and the localization was not great, but I don't know even that a lot of them even have a lot of dialogue anyway, so I guess I'm interested to hear how it was.
Oh, we'll talk about that, yeah, for sure. But yes, Asura the Striker, like as I mentioned here, it's a 2-person development team from Japan. The name of the studio is Leftover. It released April 23rd of this year, 2025, and as of right now, it's only available on PC. You can only play it, I think, pretty much only on Steam. So, Asura the Striker it's like the cool game of the year, man. It's like it's the this game looks sick as hell game of the year for me. It is like vibe squared, heart racing, capital C cool. What it actually is it is an arcade style behind the back rail shooter. This is a game that the developers are very honest in saying, we loved games from like the mid to late 80s. We're big fans of stuff like Space Harrier and Afterburner. We wanted to do right by those games. And so they developed their own modern version of that.
So it is on rails. It
is on rails.
Okay. I was thinking, like, my comparison, at least for the looks of this game, I thought it was more of like a virtual on type game.
Oh, like an arena fighter.
Yeah, it looks that way. But I mean, obviously, it being on rails makes sense. But just the looks of it reminds me of Virtual On, how you're behind the back.
Yeah, it is very Space Harrier to give people context. So you are behind the back of the character. They're kind of floating in the middle of the screen, and you're moving forward, like deeper into the screen really fast as waves of enemies show up. And you're moving all around the screen. You have like a couple of different attacks that I'll get into and trying to avoid bullets and do damage to enemies. So if you've played Space Harrier or even like Panzer Dragoon or something like that, you'll be familiar with the style of the game. And the developers, like I said, are very open about this being an homage to that. In this game, rather than playing as like generic sci-fi cyber G.I. Joe, you instead play as anime mecha girl. You play as someone that's like, it could be pulled like kind of half Evangelion, half Cosmos from Xenosaga sort of energy to her. But the rest of the game definitely, I feel like, captures that Sega energy. I mean, It's very clear from the first level, they've got those Sega blue skies. Mm-hmm. The soundtrack is energetic and fun. You can drop down and like run along the water that has this reflection that is shining and like showing like versions of the bullets in the enemies as you're going by and stuff like that. It is very Sega coded. But as you actually play through, so you push forward into levels. As you're moving around the screen, you have 3 different kind of actions that you can take. You have your normal shot, which is just like a really fast machine gun style pew 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 pew. You have something, I forget the name of it. It's called like piercing knuckle or something like that, but it is a chargeable melee attack. So you have to hold the button for a second. She kind of like pulls her fist back, charges up, and like some energy goes into her fist, and then you can punch forward and either defeat enemies, knock back bosses, or deflect some projectiles as well using that attack. And then your last option is something called lightning overdrive, which is basically like a slow down bullet time. So when you press the button, all the enemies and the bullets and everything slow to like half the speed. You seem to continue to move at the same speed and your bullets move at the same speed, so you're able to get an advantage, dodge some hard patterns, stuff like that. It is also worth mentioning that the lightning overdrive in this game recharges insanely fast. Like you're done using it and maybe 3 to 5 seconds later it's fully charged again. So like it is always there when you need it every single time. So make sure you use it liberally, and you'll probably need to in order to like successfully hit some of the melee attacks, which we'll talk about in a little bit here.
I have such a hard time with that in games. I always hoard stuff like that. So it's good to hear that it's like I prefer when there's a very short cooldown. So it's like, okay, I know it's going to come right back, rather than have a 15 to 20 second cooldown and be like, what if I need it though? I don't want to use it until I absolutely need it. Yeah.
It recharges so fast to like, I almost am like, why is there even like a recharge on it? Like I will always have it when I need it. So, I mean, I guess that's just so you can't hold the button down the entire stage, but it's certainly not they don't want this to be treated like a mega elixir, right? They want you to use this as often as you need to. And if you're not sure, they want you to still use it in that case too. So you're trying to progress forward. It has kind of like the level structure of like a Darius or something like that, where the first stage, at the end of every stage is a boss. So you'll do like a minute or so, minute and a half of waves of enemies will come at you. You'll fight a boss at the end of the stage. And then after the stage, you can choose the next spot you want to go. So you start at stage A, and then you can choose, I want to go to A or B. And then every time you beat a stage, you have the choice of kind of the 2 adjacent stages there in sort of like an inverted pyramid. So the further into the game you go, the like more stages there are to potentially choose from, but you're always only choosing from the 2 that you are directly below. And if you kind of favor the left side of that triangle of stage selection, it's generally easier stages. And if you favor the right side, it's generally harder, more complicated stages. Within the individual levels, you have 5 what they call shields, but it's basically like 5 hit points. If you take damage, you will take you will lose 1 point of shield. And then you also have 5 credits, which is just a continue that starts you right back where you were in the middle of the boss fight or whatever you were doing, with 5 more shields. And then in addition to that, there's a couple ways that you can earn extra shields. One is every time you beat a boss, you'll get 1 extra shield, so like 1 extra hit point recovered. And then as the enemies are flying in, if you like think of these types of games like a Star Fox or something like that, a lot of times enemies fly in and it's kind of like a line of like 7 of them, right? And they all kind of are in a pattern, they swoop towards you. Yeah. And in a lot of these games, when you when you shoot down the entire group of enemies flying at you, you get like a little extra bonus points for clearing the entire group. That's true in this game. And then every 10 groups of enemies that you clear the entirety of, you also get 1 extra shield back. So
that's nice.
It's some added incentive to like try to not let that straggler get away before he flies off screen and is gone forever. It's generally not too hard. Like, there's an easy mode and there's a normal mode, and I've beat the game on both. They honestly felt very similar. Really the only difference that I noticed that they tell you is on easy mode, as you're flying through, let's say you're flying through like a forest level, there might be some rocks on the ground or like some trees sticking up out of the ground. There's always like objects that you need to dodge left and right out of the way of. On easy mode, you'll hit those and your character will kind of like stumble or be stunned for like 2 seconds, but then recover and be fine. On normal mode, if you hit those, you lose 1 point of shield. So you have to be a little more attentive to the dodging on normal mode. But other than that, in terms of like enemy patterns, bullet patterns and stuff, they felt very similar to me. And then you play through, I think it's 8 stages in total. And then you'll get to one of the like 7 or 8 final stages where you'll get an ending when you beat the final boss. Halfway through a run, you'll get to a bonus stage where there's no enemies. You're just flying through these like shrine gates. And if you fly through all of them, you get an extra shield as well and some extra points. Because obviously this is like an arcadey score chaser game. You're trying to max your number of points, get high scores, get S ranks on as many levels as you can, stuff like that. But it's pretty breezy to get through. A run will take you maybe about like a half an hour to 40 minutes to get through a complete run where you get through the final boss. This is where I mentioned the localization. There's very little story in the game at all. Kind of like hearkening back to games of that era. There's basically no story set up at all. And then depending on which final stage you select and which final boss you beat, it'll give you like a one screen, like full concept art image and then like one paragraph of text.
It's like Soul Calibur 2 or something. Like, here
yes,
you go.
Very fighting game energy to it. Yes. And I mean, the translations on those are fine. It has a little bit of that like stiff energy that those older games had in their translation.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't know if that's like a language difference or if that was intentional because it feels very appropriate to the era of games that they're calling back to. So it was not a detriment in any way. It was very, very appropriate. What else about it? I mean, it looks like, as you can see, it looks incredible. There's a huge variety of levels. There's like nighttime cityscapes, volcanoes, canyons, Arctic levels, so much stuff.
All I can imagine with this game, how sick would it be to play this game on a stand-up cabinet? Like, I feel like it would fit right at home in a nice CRT stand-up cabinet.
Yeah, it would. It'd be perfect for that. Yeah. It'd be, and to play with like a joystick too would be so much fun.
It'd be sick.
They do give you the option, speaking of like joystick controls, for people, depending on how you want to play this game, they give you the option if you want the character to like default when you let go of the joystick, snap to the center of the screen or stay where they are. And interestingly, the letting go of the joystick and them naturally moving back to the center of the screen feels more natural. I think that's because that's more how those older arcade games generally kind of felt. So that's how I ended up playing the whole thing. But yeah, not only are all those environments that I mentioned like diverse and interesting, there's also a ton of different bosses. And this is the type of game where like they don't really care so much about like all the enemies feeling like they're from a consistent group or force or anything like that. They just wanted to make cool as hell shit and put whatever idea they had. So it's like sometimes you're fighting like weird Yu-Gi-Oh monster. Sometimes you're fighting like giant mecha. Sometimes you're fighting like ancient dragons. It's just whatever seems fun.
I was watching on the Steam pages a bunch of GIFs in like the description part, and there is one section where you literally look like you're dueling to the death against Shenron from Dragon Ball. Like it literally looks like a giant green snake-like dragon, exactly like Shenron from Dragon Ball.
Yes, he's the boss of the very first stage, so everybody will see him. He's very satisfying too because he kind of like comes in towards you and then pulls back in his attack patterns, and if you kill him with a melee strike, he goes like flying way off into the distance and collapses into the ground like hundreds of yards away from you. So again, very Dragon Ball.
Oh, I get the title now, the Striker.
Yeah, you see it. The last like positive thing that I will call out about this game is OST. So good.
I heard like one of 10 seconds of it. I was like, let's go. Yeah.
There's not a lot of tracks. It's like a 14-track OST, but I have been listening to it nonstop all week. This is, I think, one of the only soundtracks that I've ever purchased on Steam. Like, I played through the game 2 times, and I was like, I went to listen to the music. It wasn't on YouTube, and I went right back to Steam and bought it for $5 and downloaded all the tracks. Very high energy, very melodic. It's got all the influences you would expect watching the game. You know, like some like Japanese city pop, a little Eurobeat in there. Certainly like the anime and video game themes of the late 80s. Like if you know the Space Harrier theme, you're going to know this. It's Space Harrier meets Macross basically in terms of soundtrack. Just crazy cool. So all that said, what questions do you guys have, if any?
You said that a run takes less than an hour, right? Is that like, that's not like beating the game though, right?
Well, I mean, it's an arcade game in length too. So you'll do a run and you'll beat the game and you'll get one of the like 8 possible endings depending on the route you chose through the level. But you can go back and choose a different route through the game. So if you imagine like every time you're choosing a stage, you always start in the same first stage. There's 2 options for the second stage, 3 for the third stage. There's something like, I don't know the math, like 40, 45 stages in the game that you only need to play through 7 or 8 of them to beat it. So when you get a winning run, you'll have seen like 1/8 of the total game. And then, of course, because it's for like shoot 'em up hardcore gamers, if you can get all the way to the final stage without ever using one of your continues, you can take shield damage but not continues, it unlocks like a secret true final boss final stage that will get you the true ending and a couple of achievements depending on what you do in that stage. I was not good enough.
Yeah.
I was not successful in that. At least I have not yet.
Yes.
I've got to an ending using like 3 continues, but like I'm not close to getting like a 1cc clear. So it's something for like you to strive for in the long term.
Yeah, the stretch goal.
Yeah.
Good.
No, I was just gonna say I know that there are a few people in the Discord right now who are probably salivating about everything you just said about the 1cc stuff. There's a couple guys in there who would be like, Steve can't do it, but I bet I can, and they'll jump in and get it done.
Yeah, I saw the credits at the corner. That was my next question, so you completely answered that. Nice. I just think the game looks badass. Like you see like 3 seconds of it, you're like, this game just looks like it's gonna be fun as hell. Like I would walk up to this in an arcade and put my quarters in there. You know, like I would play that. Yeah. So.
Yep. Totally. So okay. If there's no other questions, we'll kind of get to final conclusions here. I have left a few sticking points off that we will talk about because I wanted to get all of the like energetic positivity out up front, and I want people to go check this game out. It is cool as hell. I want more people my hope is that the people that are most interested have already like paused the podcast and gone and downloaded it.
It's on sale right now too when this episode comes out. So
it is, yeah, for the like 3 or 4 days following the release of this episode, it'll be on sale for like $11. It's normally $15. There are some issues with hitboxes. Like they are confusing sometimes. I wouldn't even say it's a hitbox issue. It's more like a visual clarity issue.
Yeah. Some
of the harder stages, enemies will like throw big bullet patterns at you or like a shotgun spread of bullets. And sometimes you will like weave through them and you'll feel like you scammed the game. Like I shouldn't have made it through there, but I did. And sometimes you will be dodging and think you have a little bit more time to dodge based on like the perspective of the bullet coming towards you. It's almost like you're not sure exactly when the bullet is going to hit like the plane that you're on. Right. And so you'll think you're going to dodge and you'll still get hit by a bullet and it'll feel kind of dirty. That same problem also comes up sometimes, especially with the melee attack. It's pretty hard to gauge if the enemy is close enough to be within melee distance, and there's no real indicator. And so it was a very common experience, and is still a very common experience for me to like charge up a melee to an enemy that's coming right at me, like swing, miss, and then the enemy just smashes into me and I take damage because I misjudged that. And there's a little bit of a skill issue there, of course, but it's also definitely like a visual language there's no indicator, the enemy doesn't change colors, and there's just no way to know. It's almost like you have to know how big the enemy would be at full scale to know if they're close enough to you sometimes. So you're going to take hits that you feel like you don't deserve playing this game. But that said, I mean, the credit system is generous enough where even taking some cheap shots, I still made it through the game. But that will frustrate especially the 1cc people out there.
Yeah, but those same 1cc people will, like, in order to 1cc any game like this or a shoot 'em up or whatever, it's all about repetition, right? And they're going to figure it out. Like, after a while, I assume in general, enemy placement is pretty similar through each one of these stages, right? Where the
enemies always appear in the same ways every time. Yeah, it's like any bullet hell game where you can memorize it and get perfect clears on every stage.
Right. I feel like in my personal experience, games like this always have this issue where the bullets are coming at you and getting slightly larger as they come, but you really can't, like, it's got a depth perception problem where you can't really tell. So I guess I personally wouldn't really fault this game for that. I feel like it kind of falls in line with that's the genre. Now, if you want to be really good at this game, then you're going to have to figure that part out. But I don't know. I feel like that's just kind of part of it. Like Space Harrier, I feel like has that same issue. So
I don't think that you're wrong there. The other kind of like related issue to that, in addition to that, is your character is like relatively large, and so will sometimes kind of obscure information directly in front of you. So you may not even necessarily see a bullet coming directly your way. I mean, you're moving all the time, right? In these games, like, you never stop moving. So it's not like a bullet is going to get fired from an enemy and be like obscured the entire time all the way to you. But, you know, you might not have noticed a bullet that you moved in front of, and then you won't see it until it hits you and your character takes damage. So it's kind of like for various reasons, some inherent to the game, some inherent to the genre, you'll just take hits that you feel like maybe you didn't deserve.
Applying like a translucent filter might have been helpful for something like that.
Yeah.
Where when something happens, your character goes like sort of see-through, so you can at least see, you know. But yeah. Two people have developed, I suppose. But.
And all those kind of like sticking points that I had, I actually went into the like forum thread and discussion for this game in the Steam forums.
Nice.
And a lot of people were citing those same issues, and the developers have said, like, we are working on improvements to specifically all those things. We are going to work on improvements to visual clarity, to make it easier to understand depth, all that stuff. So it's very possible that 6 months from now, there's like an update that kind of addresses a lot of these issues. But based on how the game is now, that's how it feels. So given all that, it is an insanely cool game. I desperately want more people to check it out. I love it, but I do think it's a side quest, because I think this is kind of the perfect example of a side quest where like the right type of sicko is going to love this game. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people will be like, the people that kind of like, I don't want to sound reductive, but if you're the type of person who like is playing like a retro game, for example, and you kind of like save state your way through the difficult parts and it takes you 40 minutes to get through and then you just move on and never think about it again, those type of people I think will not get a lot out of this game, because you do have to want to do the score chasing, and you have to be internally motivated to score chase, because there isn't even like a global leaderboard. It's all just local leaderboards. Or those people will feel a little frustrated with some of those like hit detection things that I mentioned, or the visual language. But there's like 10% of our audience that will like be mad at me that I'm putting it on the side quest, and those are the people that I'm specifically sharing this game for anyways. I'm just kind of hedging for the other 90%. So this game absolutely rips. I love it. I've played it through like 4 times, and I will continue to play it. Loosely in my head, I would say this is certainly a candidate for my game, not my game of the year, but like my 10 games of the year this year.
Oh, nice.
A real like pleasant surprise for me. But I have some appreciation. Like, I like Space Harrier quite a bit, so I was kind of a mark for this game. So, yeah. Asura the Striker. Very cool game. Hope more people check it out.
I would go so far as to say that bare minimum, it belongs on the quest log just because of the way it looks. Like, this is an incredible.
It is stylish as hell, man.
It
It is slick.
So good.
It's generally not a genre I gravitate towards, but I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna try it out.
Yeah.
Just from Steve's recommendation. So, you got me, Steve. At least.
Hell yeah. That's what we like to see. You know, shed a little light on some cool games that are slipping past people.
I will probably also pick it up for the looks. I want, and it's good to check out like these kinds of games. Like shmups are coming out daily, but I feel like the Space Harrier likes. They come out certainly, but they are less common, and so I like to see a good, cool looking one from time to time.
It's nice to have a game where you're like, I've beat this in 45 minutes. I know it's a short experience. I have like 30 minutes before bed. I could just pop in there, grab a handheld, probably Steam Deck, and just get through a run. I love a game like that. So
I do hope that they add some sort of online leaderboard if they're still working on it, because that would motivate. A lot of people a lot more, I think, to be able to kind of compete. So cool.
Totally. Yeah. Also just nice. Not a genre that we get to see on the quest log too often.
No.
So nice to get some shmup sickos, a little bit of red meat every now and again.
Heck yeah. All right. I suppose that leads us directly into the game that I'm bringing today, which I think you guys will find quite interesting, specifically that I am the one bringing it. I'm very interested to hear if you guys have actually heard of this game. There are certain aspects of this game that will appeal to the both of you, and they're two different aspects, so I think that's kind of interesting. But I played a little game that released this year called Leila. Have you guys heard of Leila?
This name is ringing a bell. Let me look it up.
Leila.
Leila. Okay, there's a different Layla, Layla.
Oh, okay.
That has one review on Steam, by the way. How intriguing.
This one does not have that many more reviews on Steam. I mean, it's certainly more than one, but it's a pretty low review count game.
I've seen you see the cover art of stuff. I've seen the cover art a million times. I had no idea what this game is, though. So.
Okay.
Yes. Well. Yeah, I've also seen the cover art on this one, too. Very cool looking.
Yes. We shall get into where this game goes. It goes places, certainly. So it released, like I said, this year, April 7th. Developed by, I think it's Ubik Studios, a UBIK. Platform is PC, PS5, and Switch, as far as I know. I'm not sure that it is on Xbox at all. From what I gathered, it's not so far. So, overview. It is a point-and-click puzzle adventure that is very focused on driving home a message, story-focused, I suppose, game in that realm. So as you guys both probably heard in that overview, there are two different reasons that I would recommend it to each of you. Story focused, I would absolutely recommend to Josh. I think that Josh would absolutely take something away from this game. This feels like at the outset this is a very Josh game, but there are puzzles in here. I would say that some go on to be nearly frustrating that I think that Steve would enjoy. Like I thought it was going to be one thing, and then I'm like, holy crap, I'm staring at the screen and have no idea what to do with some of these. So that's two sides of this coin that this game is. So before we get into how that all comes together, though, let's talk about what it looks like. It is honestly gorgeous. It is what drew me to this game is the look of it. It's a very unique hand-drawn style. Like you can tell that an artist had a vision and they put this game together based on their vision, because the way the characters are animated are very different from anything I've ever seen before. Like it's not a cartoony style. It almost reminds me of I'm trying to think of what there were music videos back in the day where people were like pencil drawing characters, like late 80s, early 90s, stuff like that. Like that's what this reminds me of a little bit, like that art style. It's in color, of course, but it's a very unique, one person obviously created this. It's not something that you can just go and Google hand-drawn art and see stuff like this. Like, this is very specific. So very, very pretty, very colorful, good to look at game. And honestly, the reason that I was drawn to it to begin with was the way it looks. Music, as would make sense, very chill, there is even a part where you are sitting in a coffee shop, but it's just that kind of vibe. You're just chilling out, playing through this game, mellow. Now there are a lot of extreme points that it drives home, I will say, based on where the story goes. So it's not always just, I'm here to chill out, and it's just a super mellow, easy game to get through. No, it really goes places to the point where it's like, we'll go into it a little bit. I don't want to spoil too much about the story, but it can be quite sad is all I will say. So to at least take some of it in. But the music is always, there's never any super high anxiety music from what I can remember. There are certain parts, certain visuals that you see that kind of evoke that. But I don't think that the music ever went to that kind of haunting feel. On to the story. The story is why you play this game, in my opinion. I would say that there are certain aspects of what you're doing within the game that certainly will appeal to a lot of people. But if you are listening to this, or you ever see any gameplay footage or watch a trailer or see screenshots, you're probably going to figure it's got a story that will hook you. And it does. It is a very good storyline about this girl named Leila Ada, I believe. Her last name's Ada. She is an author. You find that out very quickly, but right at the beginning of the game, you find out that she is fairly old. I would say past middle age, maybe 60, late 60s, early 70s is kind of where you figure Leila is as you start the game. And you find out that there is this contraption. I think it even says in her room that you're sitting in that it is 2047. You find out that there is this contraption that is sitting on her desk that she could pick up and look into. It's almost like an old-fashioned VR where she can like look into the two eye holes and see. Basically, her daughter gets it for her. It allows her to go back and look at her previous memories. So think To the Moon, right? But except for you're living still. You're not on your way out. You can actually go back and experience things. It feels like what we go to therapy for nowadays, but you could just actually visualize your memories by looking at them rather than talk about past experiences. She's kind of, the whole point of this game is to step through the different experiences in Leila's life that have led her to be who she is today. And a lot of it is not great. As you can imagine, we all have a lot of past trauma, or the majority of us do. If you don't, then you're quite lucky, I suppose. But there are things that happen to everybody, right? Where something in childhood or death in the family or somebody very close to you all impact us in a certain way and lead us to be the people we are today. And she's kind of going back and touching each and every one of those specific instances throughout her life that have formed her into what she is. And so you're kind of going through, and of course, as you go and see those parts of her life, you have things that you can do that make this a game, right? There are puzzles, of course. But for the most part, you're playing the game to see what Leila is all about. Before I get to the gameplay and how the puzzles actually work, do you guys have any other questions?
Yeah, I was watching the trailer and it showed a few different perspectives. Are you going to get into that in the gameplay maybe? But I've seen like a first person like dungeon crawler looking area maybe.
Oh yeah, yes. So I can touch on that quickly right now. To me, that area is not overly important to what's going on in the game. So basically what you're doing in that forest section. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I've seen that in the trailer. It's like kind of a focal point of the trailer. You know?
Yeah, that's like almost your hub world in a way. When you look into the device, you can like walk through this hallway that's Etrian Odyssey like or something like that, right?
That's what I was like. Is this going to be like that type of game? But obviously,
right?
not,
No, it really that part kind of throws you off, I suppose, if you're a viewer and you've not actually played the game. But all you really do in there is you can click on different things in the world. It is a point and click, of course. So you can click on different things in the world and see different screenshots of Leila's life previously, different traumatic events or just happy events, like all sorts of different events. You can also just play with the foliage if you want to, like click on leaves and just because it's a point and click, like it's very much a point and click. They want you to play with things because it feels good, I suppose. But that's all you really do there, other than eventually you get some dialogue from Leila herself saying, oh, I do recall this memory. And then there's like a section of that foresty area that you can click on that allows you to take a path to that subset of dialogue and story, right? Where you can actually go and do something to advance what you're trying to learn about her. So
that makes sense. Cool.
I'll ask what I think like a lot of people will ask right up front. And you've sort of covered this, and I'm sure you'll cover it more, but like what's the vibe of this game? Because on one hand, you look at like even like the Steam banner, it's like her laying in the water with kind of like a dead eye stare. And you watch the trailer and there's like some kind of like gory-ish stuff in there. Like there's like, this is in the trailer, so it's not really spoiling anything, but like there's like a scene where she's like ripping her own skin off. But then at the same time, their description calls it a heartfelt game. And I was skimming some of the reviews and a couple of people were like, very cozy game. So I'm like, what the hell? What is like? What's the energy here?
It is strange, and I was trying to dance around that as much as possible, so as not to spoil different things. But that's why I was talking about, like the trauma part. I think that it probably helps a lot. Like there are certain parts of this game where I don't know that I could necessarily relate because it is very focused on to me, it seems like focused on driving home a message to a female audience. And I obviously don't have that touch point in my life, but there are still a lot of parts in this game that make a lot of sense to me as a parent. I will say there are different parts of this game that she goes through with parenthood. But to answer that question, Steve, yes, there are actually messages that the game tells you that it's like, hey, this is a intense imagery. There's going to be gore. When she was doing that, it's because she to try to dance around as much as possible and not spoil things, but she was very that didn't actually obviously happen. It was something she was very much in her head, and she was feeling very down about herself. I will say that
it's like a body image type thing.
Yes. Yeah. Sort of. At that exact moment, she was in high school. We all go through things in high school, right? Yeah. Where you don't like yourself for whatever reason, right? So that's kind of what's going on there. You learn a lot more about what happened or why she felt that way in game, and I don't want to spoil that too much, but I would say that people say it's a cozy game. The cover, it's like if I were to pick up a book and think it's a certain thing based on what the cover looks like, and then start reading it and find out it's something completely different. That's what Leila kind of does. Okay. It presents itself cozy, but it plays cozy, but you don't feel that cozy most of the time.
Again, I'm only for folks that have not seen this game before and are only listening to the show. The spoilers are light here because I'm only talking about like the developer's own words on the store page and like the first couple scenes in the trailer that they chose to put up. So like, this is not like, I don't think giving away like a twist in the game or anything, but like if I looked at that banner, when I did look at that banner on Steam, I would have assumed that there's like a horror element to this game. Like it's unsettling the way that she looks.
I would say it only goes so far in the horror direction as anything that terrible that can happen in a normal everyday life.
Yeah.
So if you feel that having a terrible day or having the worst day of your life is horror adjacent, which it is kind of, right? Those are the kind of subjects that this touches on. Like, imagine when you're 70 years old, you get to look back at your entire life and see every single decision you ever made. That's kind of where this goes. Or every pivotal moment in your life that made you do a hard 90-degree turn, right? Like that's kind of where this game goes. So I think all I really want to say about the story. If you're interested based on anything I've said so far, I would say play it to get what you can out of the story. It doesn't, as a lot of these games do, it doesn't wrap up extremely cleanly, although you feel good about it at the end. It doesn't like, oh, here is the resolution. But I think that there isn't a whole lot of resolution to all of life's circumstances, and I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Like you're not ever going to be completely happy with everything that happened, but learning from it is kind of the point. And I will say that certain aspects of what this game, the message that this was trying to push, really made me reflect on my own life, and I think that's what it's supposed to do. So, with that, we will go right into. To be completely honest, the story is the main point of this game. If not, the art design is incredible. The gameplay felt somewhat secondary for the most part, at least initially. But then it got extremely intense at certain sections. So at first, I thought this was just going to be a run-of-the-mill point and click. At the beginning of the game, you start doing some things where it's like, hey, I lost some stuff, or I need to build this contraption. I don't know where the items I need that I actually need for it. So you start to kind of go around with your cursor and grab things and bring them to a basket, right? It's very much the I Spy books in a way. I'm looking for stuff that's hidden, and I go find them, and then I bring them back, and okay, cool. I guess that's what I'm going to be doing, a lot of that in this game, and that's fine. Until you're not. Until it goes into this, like, first it starts out, sort of run-of-the-mill puzzling, like I'm trying to connect some wires based on color. I don't know if you guys are looking at screenshots on Steam, but I think there is a specific screenshot of that, where it starts out pretty basic. Just get the red to the red and the green to the green, but eventually you have issues where they could cross over, and you have to kind of draw around the outside, and there's been a lot of like mobile games that have done that specific thing, and that's just one small part of this game. But then it goes into I'm trying to stack different blocks in certain ways. It gets to the point where it just dropped me in this room, and it tells me nothing, and I'm clicking around the screen trying to figure out what to do, and it's basically like a one-screen puzzle where there are there may be like a clock or a dartboard or other like books stacked in a certain way, and that's the type. Like Steve's nodding his head. You know the type, right? Mm-hmm. That kind of puzzling where, hey, I'm not really going to tell you anything. You just have to figure out what you're supposed to do, and it goes there as well. And that's kind of where I was thinking. Oh, as I'm playing that section specifically, I'm like, okay, I eventually got through it, right? Because here I am, and there's no guides for this game. I couldn't look anything up, but that's the part where it was like, oh, Steve would dig this, right? Whereas with a lot of the story sections, I know for a fact Josh would dig a lot of that story, a lot of that reflecting and stuff like that. But gameplay is good. It is certainly serviceable, although I will say that it hasn't had a lot of negative reviews. I think it carries like a 90% review score on Steam, but several of the negative reviews that I read were like, just some of the puzzles they just don't tell me what to do. There is a hint system in the top left corner. You can click on this light bulb that will give you a very general direction in a lot of puzzles, like, hey, look here. But then sometimes with those single screen puzzles where it just doesn't tell you anything, I would click on the hint system and it would just do nothing. So I don't know if that was a bug or a feature, but it would just not tell me, and I'd be like, well, okay, I guess I'm on my own. I just need to poke around till I figure this out. But gameplay is certainly serviceable, although definitely not the point. Still felt pretty darn smart when I figured a lot of them out, though. So cool that it's here. I think that I'll add right here, because we're kind of winding down. Do not, under any circumstance, play this game on PlayStation. It was not made for PlayStation. The amount of times I got so frustrated by trying to move this cursor around the screen, and it seems like it's quite sensitive with like when you click. So I would click off by a little bit, and then I would kind of move the cursor a little bit more. Click again. No. Move the cursor a little bit more. Click again. No. And it would just take so many times. Whereas if I had a mouse in hand, honestly, I do not want to detract from this game because of the way I played it. But this game was made to be played on PC. So if you're going to play this game, play it on PC. I did get a few trophies. Yes, you can get trophies on PlayStation. So if you're that kind of person and you really want the trophies, then certainly you can play it on PlayStation. I did, but it was kind of a miserable experience at certain points, and I was wishing that I had a mouse in hand. So
also, I looked it up because of course I did. It doesn't even have a platinum.
No
So if you're a
no
trophy hunter out there, you probably won't be that excited.
Exactly.
I say port Leila to the Nintendo Switch 2 so I can
Touchscreen.
use mouse mode.
Or mouse. What's that? Is that a new thing?
When you pop a Joy-Con off of its
I
base,
think I did
there's a little
see that.
basically a little laser, and so you can put it down on a desk and use it as a mouse.
That would work well.
So-
It is on Switch. Although the Switch didn't have that functionality, right?
No, so it'd have to be they'd have to patch it
port
for Switch 2.
No.
But see,
Yeah,
this
and
is why
the Switch 2 they invented the mouse. Like, you know,
Yeah, first people to do it,
until
right?
Switch 2 came out, you know.
Finally, games like
praise Nintendo.
Layla and StarCraft 2
Yeah.
have a home. You know,
Exactly.
finally there's a way to play them thanks to the ingenuity of Nintendo.
They've just been in limbo this entire time. Yeah. So, with that, any questions before I throw Layla on the quest log?
Did you mention how long it is? I can't.
No,
if I missed
I
it.
don't think I did, but it was roughly 2 to 3 hours, but I suppose your mileage will vary depending on how long it takes you to do some of the tougher puzzles. I'll be completely honest right here. There was one puzzle that I just started trying every combination I could until it just gave me the answer. And I'm like, okay, well, it's done now. And I move on. But I could not figure it out. And then eventually it's like, okay, that solution led to a different solution. And then it made sense, but I still don't know how I got the original solution. So anyway,
I would have guessed it was longer just because like every screenshot on the Steam page is different. It's like a different perspective, a different look, almost a different art style sometimes. I'm like, it seems like there's a lot here, but I guess it's just that they really like, you know, every memory maybe that Layla is exploring is just doing a little different.
yes.
And like changing it up. So it's just like in that experience, they add a lot of variety, which is cool.
Each of those perspectives is a different section, I suppose, of Layla's life. And they each take between 10 minutes and half an hour, depending on which one they are. The majority of them will take like 15 minutes, right? And there are about, I don't know, I may not have had to get all of them because I feel like I didn't do one thing, but then I still got credits at the end and told me I was done. But there are somewhere between like 7 and 10 of those memories that you go and visit and have to solve something in. So
cool. I mean, honestly, I'm glad to hear it because this game seems cool and it's a 2025 game. So I'm glad to hear it's like it's a digestible size of meal. So I'm for sure going to add this to the wish list and play it before the end of the year.
Yeah, it's one that I'm going to throw on the, like, it sounds something, like you said, the story, I definitely want to experience it. I'll probably throw it on the wish list and wait for like a summer sale and see if it's like 20% off or something. I feel like that's the vibe for this for me personally. So
speaking of that vibe, Josh, let's have a verdict on this game. I feel pretty strongly that this is a very I almost said cozy, but we've already agreed that this is not cozy in a lot of ways. This is a side quest game for me. It is a good experience. It is a fun little game. I can't say that I don't have that my opinion of how I played it isn't impacting this at all. I wish I had played it on PC. I tried very hard not to let that happen. But even without that, it is a good, the story flows the way I think it should, but also there are some hitches here or there where I wasn't quite entirely sure where it was supposed to be going or what was supposed to be happening until it wrapped up and makes sense. I think that the message drives home what it's supposed to and made sense to me and it impacted me, like I said. I don't know that it's going to blow everyone away, especially if you haven't experienced certain situations that Leila does in this game. Parenthood, womanhood, like so many different things. There are extremely, I will not spoil it, but there are extremely sensitive things that happened to her in her childhood. So lots of stuff like that. And especially if you're sensitive to some of that kind of stuff, I'm not sure this would be the game for you either. The game does tell you can skip, but if you're going to skip every situation, then why are you playing this game? Right. That's how I feel. Gameplay side can be quite frustrating, especially if you're not a puzzle hound, but still doable and enjoyable, especially when you get the right answer and you're like, yes, I did it. So for all those reasons, it is a pretty comfortable side quest for me. I would check it out if any of the things that I've said throughout my little time talking here appeal to you.
Yep. Very cool.
Yeah. Just you say no, it has a nice little cozy story I can beat in an evening. That just sounds like a nice like Friday night. I just want to kick on something type of game, you know? So.
Honestly, Josh, I would love, or either of you, right? Like if you guys play this, I would love to talk to you about where the story goes for sure. And like have some reflecting. Like it's got 200 reviews on Steam, so I doubt that very many people are going to play this game all year. It's just a kind of a little bit of an undercover game, I suppose, but if you guys play it, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Awesome. All right, we had 3 games brought to the quest log today. We got In Stars and Time, I brought, which is a JRPG, and it's really good. I think you guys should check it out on the main quest. We got, from Steve, we got Asura the Striker. That's Asura the Striker. If you guys are having trouble Googling that, check it out. Nice, awesome arcade action. And then we got Leila from Seth, which is... did I say that yours was a side quest for Steve's? And then we got Leila, which is Leila. Just want to make sure people can spell that correctly and find it on the store. Nice little point and click side quest as well. So I think that we had kind of a nice variety today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Solid slate.
No doubt.
Definitely. Well, it sounds like we're winding down the show. So what we do next is we do the plugs. You can find the show at IndieQuestPod on Blue Sky. Send us emails, IndieQuestPod@gmail.com. But if you don't want to do either one of those, you can send us a text message. That's down below in the description there. It says send us a text. Click that and it will send us a little text message, completely anonymous. You can say any questions, comments, concerns, or whatever if you enjoyed one of the games from the quest log, which you can find at IndieQuestPod.com. Steve, where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, and before I even drop my info, I'll also just give like a little bit of a call out to folks out there. We are about halfway through the year. So Josh just told you IndieQuestPod@gmail.com and how to text the show. If there's anything in the first half of the year that you've played that you feel like is going under the radar that you think is an awesome game, let us know. We might even do like a formal check-in at some point here on this show, but like I'd like to know in the first half what were the hits that I missed. It's time for me to start building the list that I slowly chip away in the next 6 months. So, all that said, you can find me on Blue Sky or on Twitch as Blinkoom, Blink OOM, M like meat boy, and yeah, come hang out, talk about video games. What about you, Seth?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Captain Drachma, and of course in the Polymedia Discord. Best place on the internet. And if you want to get in the Discord, head on over to Patreon, search up Polymedia, jump into the tier that gets you into the Discord, and come and hang out. Josh, where can they find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky, Josh Leslie. You can also leave us a 5-star review on your app of choice. I've been trying to sneak that in here at the end, so if you guys have been listening to the show. The show's been around for almost 5 years. If you had a good time listening to an episode, it brought you some joy, or made your days a little bit easier, you had a good time, or you found a good indie game from us, go over to your favorite podcast app, put that 5-star review and give us a little review. Say, hey, these guys are kind of handsome. I think their voices are amazing. Whatever you want to say. I love compliments,
Too true.
You can actually find out what we look like if you go watch episode like 98 or something like that. We had a live. Go to YouTube, check us out. Let us know if we're handsome. I want to know. The jury's still out.
Okay. Yeah. You guys are handsome. I'll just leave the rest up for the folks out there. Anyway, if you want more podcasts to help pass the time, check out our network. We're part of a big network of awesome shows about nostalgia, video games, movies. Whatever you're interested in, you're probably going to get a good laugh, a good chuckle out of it. Go check it out at polymedianetwork.com, as my throat completely gives up on me right there. So, who wants to close out the show today? I'll kick it over to Seth. What are some nice parting words for the folks out there?
Gosh, I literally sometimes every once in a while I'll drum this up a little bit and have something I want to say, and then you call on Steve, or we force it back to you, or we have a guest on. And this specific time, I have no idea what I wanted to say, but I will say it's going to be Wednesday when this comes out. And if you're a father out there, happy belated Father's Day to you. See you, everybody.
See you.
Thanks.
Bye, Daddy.